Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Real Talk with Ben podcast. It's not just any episode, it's the 100th episode of the podcast, which makes me so happy they're here to join us. Whether you're new, whether you've been here since the beginning, this is just an amazing thing for me. I'm going to get into it this episode, but it's truly, truly amazing. And if you are new and you're like, this guy is crazy, well, first off, my name is Ben, and this is my podcast where I talk about life, I talk about ministry, and I talk about really pretty much anything that goes on in life, and even milestones like this for the episode, which for the podcast, it's just awesome to be around and to feel. And I'll get into why this episode. But yeah, I hope your week has been amazing. Whether you're new, whether you've been here for a long time, I hope you've had a great week. I know for me personally, I started my job. I started my job this past Monday. I was able to go into school. I've been able to spend time trying to figure out what I'm teaching, how I'm going to teach it, about 40 other gazillion things going on. But it's been a kind of an emotional roller coaster at times, but good. I really do love my new job, which I'll probably talk about on next week's episode, just because there will be more things to talk about, I guess. As I prep for the first week of classes, which I also prep for, well, the wedding that's coming up right after that. So it's been going to be a crazy few weeks. But I definitely just want to take this time to share with you guys, and like I always do every week. And so glad you're here. I hope that you will be encouraged. I hope God gets the glory through this, and you'll be able to see what he has done in this journey of 100 episodes of the Real Talk with Ben podcast. Now, I didn't know really what I was going to talk about. I actually realized it was the 100th episode when I was going through like my pre-show notes here. So it's kind of cool to kind of realize that as you're doing it. And so I didn't really know what to talk about. So I saw that. I'm like, let's talk about it. And not just, oh, it's amazing, 100 episodes. Yay! Which I am. I'm like super excited. Like I could play like party music. Sorry, I'm not going to sing. Not going to dance. None of that. But it is an amazing milestone for me. And to some, it might seem crazy. To others, you'd be like, Ben, you're not even like, you're just making podcasts like it's nothing big. But I'm going to explain that, like kind of explain the journey of it. I know I share my story a lot on this podcast, and that's part of the reason why I started this podcast. See, if you realize, and if you go back to my very first episode, if you go all the way back, when I was at home in a weird angle by a door in this like little corridor in my house, the episode was just my testimony. It was 50 minutes long. I had terrible time editing it. And that's where this journey started. I wanted to create a podcast because, one, I missed doing radio. Radio really became a part of my kind of everyday routine when I was at Cedarville for like 3 years. But I also just missed talking about life, and I loved making YouTube videos, but I felt like it wasn't enough. Like I felt I couldn't share enough in a 6-minute video, 7-minute video or shorter. And I wanted to be able to share more of life with you. And I realized that I was getting ready to go over to Hungary and to here, and it might have been a little crazy to start it, but I've always said that every time I've took a leap of faith, God has always either told me no or said, hey, I'm going to bless this. And whether people see it or not, but this podcast has been a blessing to me. And I hopefully it's been a blessing to you guys. I just simply wanted to share my story. I simply just wanted to share my journey, my kind of my life of what's going on, what's happening, and hopefully bring encouragement through it. I never saw myself, ever really doing a podcast or anything like that. I mean, I started the Bound experience because of my grandpa passed away. And from then it really became a dream. And that dream still stands there. And the dream that I've had that I've shared with you guys probably quite a few times is that I want to be able to use this platform in a way that can bring families together, friends, relatives, and from all over the world to come to a place where they can watch videos. They can watch videos of missionaries or watch videos of funny skits or funny things that happen, or my Twitch channel, and how that's really already starting to get bigger. And, you know, the reason why I started it was just because I wanted to share a story. That's why I started the Bowden Experience. And it just so happens that's why I started the podcast. I wanted to share a story. And I think doing this podcast has taught me so much about different people. I mean, obviously I've had quite a few different people, from my brother to my dad to Mishi to Tanner, not Tanner. Tanner hasn't been on yet. To Donnie, to some of these other guys. It's taught me that people come from all different walks of life, but God still has touched them in the same way that he touched me. Maybe not in the exact same way, but he has touched them. And what I mean by that is he's touched them in a way that is pricked their heart, just like he pricked my heart all those years ago and continues to. I think doing this podcast has been a blessing in many ways. And, you know, I could spend hours and hours sharing the different frustrations behind the camera that you don't see, or behind the computer that get frustrated, or I forget to record something or whatever, and it gets so frustrating, but yet it's so rewarding. I don't really, you know, I sat at my desk today at school. I'll talk a little bit about school. And I sat at my desk today, and I was just, I'm doing possibly some media stuff for the school and some marketing stuff. And I was just like looking through some video ideas, and, you know, I sat there and I said, if you would have told Ben at age 16, 17, that he would have not only a YouTube channel, a YouTube brand, a kind of a start of something, but that he would be doing podcasts and all these different things, I would have thought you're crazy. And I sat there and I had a couple tears come down my face, because I realized like how much God has blessed me, and how that every step of the way, every turn that I've made has been in God's plan. And he has, sometimes I feel like he just found some of these things that I never even knew existed in me. But yet it was so sweet and powerful and amazing. And so this definitely has not been an easy thing to do, but it's become something that I love to do. And so I want to, as I just shared the kind of the journey of it, I really wanted to talk about, you know, these 100 episodes, which is a lot of episodes, by the way. I sometimes listen back to some of the first ones and go, wow, Ben, you were terrible, or, you know, bad audio in some cases, or didn't understand really a good view. If you're watching it, what's a good view? And still don't think I know that. But my goal has always been to be encouraging and to uplift and to share God's word. And that's always been my goal. And I hope it will continue to be the goal of this podcast, and even my other things, you know, in Twitch and my other podcast, that, you know, you can be encouraged and see God's light, even if it's about sports or even if it's about video games at the same time. But now that I've kind of concluded that journey part of the podcast of life, really, of the life of my YouTube channel and everything like that, I want to talk about 3 things that I have learned over these 100 episodes, and really even doing 2 other podcasts, one that's not doing it, that I'm not doing anymore, but then the new one. And this is the big one. And I hope you hold on to this. I guess it's not the biggest one on the list, but it's a big one when it comes to like yourself. And that is, don't ever quit believing in yourself. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Many times as I've been doing YouTube, or as I've been doing these podcasts, there's been many times where I've quit believing in myself. I've quit I've wanted to quit, you know, and mentally a lot of times I have. I mean, when I got home from Hungary and even the end part of that, I was in Hungary, I just was posting the one podcast because I was hitting snags. I was feeling like that my videos aren't good enough. No one's watching my videos. I kept thinking about the numbers, right? I got away from focusing on what I'm saying and what I'm doing and the creativity of it. And instead I was focused on the numbers. How can I get more followers or more subscribers? How could I make this as a living for me? And I have to remember that maybe that's not what God wants. Maybe God just wants it to be a tool to reach the lost. And so this has taught me this journey of doing podcasts and videos and photos and all these different things is like that. Don't quit believing in yourself. Don't quit believing that you can do something, because not only one, you can do it if you put your mind to it, but two, you have God behind you. And that's what's amazing. So don't quit on yourself in anything you do, whether it's being a teacher or businessman or, you know, a YouTuber or, you know, that thing like whatever you want to be, do it. Shoot for the stars. I used to tell my kids this all the time. And when I was student teaching was, don't limit to the things you can't reach. You can't limit yourself to the things you can't reach, because you never know the avenues of life that God is going to take you, that you go, wow, I can reach that. Now, it doesn't mean idolizing it, because trust me, doing YouTube, doing all this stuff, it's very easy to idolize what you're doing. It's very easily to get caught up in the fact that, ooh, this is my life. That is not your life. Whether it's your dream job or your dream college, your dream university, that is not the end goal. That is a means to reaching the end goal, but the means need to be focused around Christ. So don't quit believing in yourself. And really, I'm preaching to myself as well. Don't quit believing in myself. And the reason is because you have to trust in God. That's the second thing I've really learned through this whole process, that trusting in God, yes, it can be very hard at times. And yes, it can be frustrating at times, because you're like, God, hello, I would like to know what's going on. But God doesn't work that way. He never has. And I don't necessarily he's ever going to will, because to be honest, I think if we knew what God was doing, I've said this a few times, I think we would just hate it, or like we'd be too scared to do it, or we think we wouldn't be good at it. Like, trust in God, because God knows exactly what you can handle at the exact time, at the exact place. I was speaking of my new job, and you know, I'm not doing the tech stuff I thought I was going to do. Instead, I have these, you know, EAL, English as a second language, and I have, you know, guidance counselors, things I've never done before. And sometimes I go, God, am I ready for this? Is this what you want? And it's like, I have to remind myself, like, okay, God knows I can handle this. This is something that is in my wheelhouse. You know, this is something that God has blessed me with, this opportunity to be in the classroom for the first time in almost 2 years, to be a part of students' lives, to do something that I haven't gotten to do in a very long time, and just to make difference in kids' eyes, whether they're 12th graders or 7th graders, or even just hanging out with elementary kids. It's about trusting in God and where he is going to take you, because I can tell you this, that God is going to take you places that you never expected, but that at the end of the day is going to be some of the best experiences you've ever had. Speaking as a former missionary that spent a year here, I did not think of the places that I would have taken, and not just the places, but the things I learned, the things I've done, the things I've been around. I am so glad that I've trusted in God, that I trusted in him to supply my needs while I was over here. And then to go back home and go, okay, God, there's a new journey. Help me get there. And yet it's very hard sometimes to trust in God. It's very hard to rely on him. But if there's anything I've learned in the journey of doing YouTube, of doing podcasts, of doing all these different things, that I'm like, I'm scared, he has always been there. And it's like when I get dried up of ideas, he tends to always just, pop an idea in my head and I'm like, oh, hello. But if God ever says, Ben, I think you're done, I know you're done with doing media, then I have to hang it up. Because if this is not what he wants me doing, then it's time for me to say, okay, this is not the path in life you wanted me to go. Or if he comes one day and or not comes to one day, but just, I realize that he's like, hey, you're not going to teach anymore. You're going to do this or that. Then that's the reality. I have to say, yes, Lord, this is your will. And trusting in God is something that I struggle with daily. And I know you might look at me sometimes in these 100 episodes and say, wow, Ben's got it all together. Ben's really hanging in there. I can be honest with you. There are plenty of days where life is really hard, where you feel like you're worthless, hopeless, that God has you in a place that you don't want to be. You'd rather be somewhere else. And sometimes I have to open up God's word, or I have to sit down and pray and say, God, show me your will. Show me why I'm here. Why am I doing this? And it never fails that might not be right away, but I see it down the line. Like, wow, this is why God had me here. Wow, this is why God had me do this. This is why God opened the door for this. God will be there for you always. I've never doubted him. I take that back. I have doubted him before, but I never doubt knowing that he will be there. It's just hard sometimes to believe that he will be there. And so that's something that I've really learned. And the third and final thing I've really learned is taking the leap of faith. Now, what I mean by taking the leap of faith is that and I'm going to talk about this in the sense of two ways, of the YouTube side of things and the podcast side of things. The leap of faith in YouTube is like, I have never done video before. I never stepped in front of a camera. I never understood how it would be. And I was terrified. Like, I'm talking to a camera. I sound crazy. And if you watch my first YouTube video, oh my word, it's awful. But I tell people that if I don't take that leap of faith, and necessarily wasn't even a leap of faith, I was so trying to figure out how to share my story, share my message, share about my grandpa, that I took a leap of faith and said, God, I want to do this. I'm going to try to do this. Like, God, help me. And I took that leap of faith, and taking that leap of faith has opened up some amazing doors. I've had some amazing conversations. I've had a conversation about race with my friend Quentin. I've had interviews with so many different people. I had a camera and lens show for a while, like photography show and videography show, and Behind the Lens was what it was called. I've had podcasts and everything like that. Like, all these things have opened up because of, one, your support, but two, because of the leap of faith I took to start in this media realm that I had no idea what I was doing. I was scared to death. I still times scared. And people always ask me, are you comfortable in front of a camera? And sometimes no. There are days you wake up and you're like, I don't want to film a video today. I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel confident. But I've learned that life is not comfortable. And you're not always going to be confident in life. Some days we get up and we take a leap of faith in saying, God, I don't know what's going on. I'm struggling today. And you take that leap of faith and say, I'm going to do what I got to do. Now, if you look at my YouTube channel or my podcast and you look at the views or the listens, compare that to someone that's been doing YouTube for 6 months, they have millions. I have a few hundred, maybe 1,000 here and there. But for me, I've had to fight heavily with not making that my idol, and realizing that taking the leap of faith was saying I was going to go through these battles, and it's okay that I'm fighting with these battles. Because, God never said the journey would be easy, right? It's one of my favorite quotes. but he said it would be worthwhile. And this is part of the worthwhile. Like this, taking the leap of faith did not mean it was going to be easy, but it was going to be worth it. And it has been worth it 10 times over. And the people I've gotten to meet through it, the people I've been able to touch, that I hear that God has used me in a way that has touched so many people's lives, has been one of the most amazing aspects of what I do. And I almost consider this a second job, but it's not a job because I love doing it. But for me, when I did my cousin's wedding, when I've done other things for, my church or different things for friends or the Word of Life, like anything I do, and I get to see that my hands touch that project, it's very easy to get caught up in my own personal gain when I realize, though, but God is using me as a tool in a dark world. And so taking that leap of faith didn't mean it was going to be easy, but it's worth it. So when you get that chance, you take that chance to take that leap of take the leap of faith, do it. You will not regret it. I promise you that. So the 3 things is, don't ever quit believing in yourself. Trust in your God because he will always be there, and take the leap of faith. Don't think you can't do something. If you want to be the best artist in the world, then put your mind to it and do it with God as the focus, but you become an artist. You want to do videos like me, become a video guy. You want to be the best musician that you can be, then be it and go do it. Don't let somebody stop you. I've had person after person try to stop me and say, you're terrible at making videos. You're not good enough. You'll never make it. You're never going to have a successful Twitch channel, a successful YouTube, a successful podcast, because you're not worth it. Friends, we aren't worth it. But God gave us the worth because God created us. God is the gift that we search for. God is the gift that we are given freely. Now let's go take it to the world. And that means using your talents, whatever God's gifted you with. I had no idea I was gifted with this until I was 21 years old. God has truly given me a gift that I want to use, and I hope you will use those gifts as well. And remember, God will never quit on you. These gifts you use, make sure you use them for his glory. And even if you don't, God is always going to be there. You hear story after story in the Bible of how God was always there, and he showed himself in so many ways until you come back home. God will be there. Remember, don't quit believing in yourself. Trust in God and take the leap of faith with God as your focus. Because when you do that, when you take that leap and you say, I'm going to be the best this, and you have God as your focus, what is it you can't do? I mean, honestly, our God is crazy, amazing. He's awesome. And he can supply our every needs, and he can bless us in so many ways. And so I hope that sharing about this 100th episode, I know it's not really a celebratory thing, maybe, or a crazy fun episode, or a crazy stories or anything like that, or really even a theme to it. But I guess the theme really is just, we serve an amazing God. Yeah, there are 100 episodes of this podcast. There could be 1,000 episodes of this podcast. But if I don't focus on giving God the glory or making sure that he is my rock, then everything else I do will be for nothing. So remember, wherever you go, whatever you do, do it for his glory, and always give him the glory, because he is the true reason why we can do what we can do. Anyways, I hope that you have enjoyed this episode of the podcast, a little shorter episode, but I hope you've enjoyed it. I know for me, it's been a blessing to do these podcasts, both podcasts, but do these episodes. You guys really do bless my days, bless my weeks, and I couldn't do it without you. And so, once again, if you've loved this episode of the podcast, go ahead and favorite it on all of the podcast holders realm. Why do I say realm? Anywhere you can find a podcast, make sure you like and favorite there. That will let me see that you're enjoying listening to it, and you'll be able to have it there with you all the time. And if you're listening on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. That allowed me to see that you've enjoyed the podcast, that you are enjoying seeing my videos, and that you would like me to put more videos out of different things, which hopefully I'll have some more new things coming out in the future, and that you'll just continue to enjoy the Bound experience as a whole. And so once again, I want to remind you of this, that we serve an amazing God, that he is faithful. We can trust him. And as always, we'll talk next time.